Right now, Bridgegate. Chris Christie in scandal control mode tonight. That after his office gets linked to the GW Bridge backup as payback. Scandal ahead here. Democrats calling for heads to roll, and Christie, for once, he's not saying anything other than sorry, kind of. And then, state of the Empire State. Andrew Cuomo uses the Albany pulpit to again shift socially left and fiscally right. Excerpts and analysis straight ahead. And later, who gets the final say when machines are all that's left when it comes to keeping someone alive? Two cases involving brain dead patients, one being forced to live, the other being forced to die. Our legal panel is here for that. All that, everyone, plus another steroid-tainted Hall of Fame election. We're going to have the results and also speak to an expert how to vote when it came to the Hall of Fame today. Good evening and welcome to a very busy RFL. I'm Richard French, and thanks so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, January 8th. Let's get right into it in the Garden State here. The GW Bridge mess for Chris Christie, and this one, trust me, is probably the biggest political headache he has had since he's been in office. It's a story we first reported back in September. Strange backups in Fort Lee, New Jersey, after even stranger lane closures on the bridge caused traffic in the city to snarl for hours and days. School buses and ambulances caught in it all, and immediately accusations it was all political payback because Fort Lee's Democratic mayor refused to endorse Christie in his re-election bid last fall. Well, in December, after winning another term, Christie was asked anything about that bridge mess, saying did he know anything about it, and did anything stop at his desk door? He insisted neither he nor anyone on his staff, and that's the important part here, or for that matter campaign, knew anything about it. And then he, of course, as is the Christie style, went after the reporters for the temerity of asking the question.
Yeah, I worked the cones, actually, Matt. Unbeknownst to everybody, I was actually the guy out there. I was in overalls and a hat, so I wasn't, but I actually was the guy working the cones out there. You really are not serious.
But today, smoking gun proof that people inside the Christie administration and campaign did know about it. And we've been off to the races ever since. Let's get the details here from our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. And Andrew, before we even get into who's saying what today, what we learned, if anybody thinks this is just about a few cones, this was first day of school. Kids didn't get to school on time here. We had ambulances that were backed up. I heard the Fort Lee mayor today saying that literally this was, forget about a security issue, this dealt with health and security. This wasn't a joke, and this lasted not just for hours, but for 4 days.
At its best, Rich, for Governor Christie, it's about throwing his political weight around, if you'll pardon the pun. At its worst, it's about abuse of power, and that's the kind of thing that has taken down political leaders before, Rich. We already knew that 2 Christie appointees knew about the bridge mess. Both of them at the Parr Authority have since resigned. Today, confirmation that it was done deliberately, and it was political payback against the Fort Lee mayor, and it was inside the governor's inner circle. Bridget Ann Kelly, Deputy Chief of Staff for Legislative Relations and a trusted Christie advisor on the right, she the guilty party when it comes to inside the Christie administration, caught ironically by a legislative subpoena of phone records. August 13th, in a personal email, she writes to David Wildstein, a top Christie appointee to the Port Authority, quote, "Time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee." That comes just 3 weeks before the lane closures. All told, the released emails today and text messages reached 6 close Christie staffers, though much of the release was redacted, so it's not clear how much they knew or if any others were involved beforehand. Kelly and Wildstein, who later resigned from the Port Authority, as did PA Deputy Director Bill Baroni. Also on the email and text chain, David Sampson, the Port Authority Chairman, Bill Stepien, twice Christie's campaign manager and now GOP state chairman, and Christie's spokesman Michael Druniak. There may be another problem for Governor Christie tonight, the tone taken in all of this. In the email, someone refers to the traffic backups in Fort Lee last September as a disaster. Then a text from Mayor Mark Skolich. Quote, "The bigger problem is getting kids to school. Help, please," he asks. "It's maddening." The response from someone still yet unknown, "Is it wrong that I'm smiling?" Later noting, quote, "I feel badly about the kids." David Wildstein then replies, "They are the children of Buono voters." Wildstein is now trying to quash a new subpoena to testify against the Assembly tomorrow. The reaction so far, well, only one Republican lawmaker would speak with us today. He focused on the timing of the release and tomorrow's hearing in Trenton. But Democratic reaction has been plentiful. From defeated Christie opponent Barbara Buono. I knew it was act of political retribution, and to suggest that Christie wasn't aware and didn't direct it, she says, I thought was ludicrous at the time. Buono calling Christie a guy who runs a paramilitary operation, saying his people don't sneeze without checking with him first. But I think what really was the most damning was the cavalier attitude these folks had about subjecting children and the public to public safety hazards. These are terrible people, she says, and the ringleader is Chris Christie. She wants everyone who knew anything about the closing terminated and is asking for the Justice Department to investigate if any other towns in the state, quote, suffered because the governor wanted to get revenge. More reaction from Democrats, national Democrats, out with a quick web out today.
But I actually was the guy working the cones out there. You really are not serious.
And I've made it very clear to everybody on my senior staff that if anyone had any knowledge about this, that they needed to come forward to me and tell me about it, and they've all assured me that they don't. Oh yeah, I've spoken to Mr. Stepien, who's the person in charge of the campaign, and he has assured me the same thing.
Christie, by the way, just canceled the press conference he was supposed to have today. Now that these emails have been disclosed, they're very damaging.
That the national Democratic attack on Christie. Christie had originally opened media event on his schedule today. That was canceled. No one has been able to question him today, but about an hour ago, his office released a statement. Quote, what I've seen today for the first time, he notes, is unacceptable. I'm outraged and deeply saddened to learn that not only was I misled by a member of my staff, but this completely inappropriate and unsanctioned conduct was made without my knowledge. One thing is clear, this type of behavior is unacceptable, and I will not tolerate it because the people of New Jersey deserve better. This behavior is not representative of me or my administration in any way, and people, he says, will be held responsible for their actions. Rich?
And that's a very point we're going to be getting into in a second, both with the interviews I had earlier today and then with our table, which is it representative, though, of the governor? And did he create the culture where we are discussing this incident? Could it happen in a vacuum, or did he really lay the seeds for what we saw happen? And make no mistake here, this isn't just about shutting down Atlanta 2, it's about so much more. Now, earlier today, I spoke with the top two Democrats on the two legislative committees that are investigating the Christie Bridge mess. Assemblyman Wisnewski and State Senator Loretta Weinberg. They're the two key people that are leading these investigations in Trenton. And I started asking Senator Weinberg how high up she thinks this lane closure scandal actually goes.
Well, that's going to be up to the governor to tell us. It went pretty high up. The deputy chief of staff is a fairly high position. The governor, not too long ago, his first reaction was to attack both Assemblyman Wisnewski and myself as being fixated. His second reaction was to kind of make fun. Oh yeah, I was out there changing the cones myself. Then he started being a little bit more serious and said, I asked everybody in my office if they knew anything about this, and they all said no. So the governor is left with explaining to us either his staff lied to him or he was less than truthful with the people of New Jersey.
If this ends per the governor saying that his staff was less than truthful and some people are seeing the door, but he says at the end of the day it was a traffic incident and nothing more, what would your response be?
Yeah, look, we know there was no traffic study. We know that what the highest level Christie appointee at the Port Authority, Bill Baroni, came to the Assembly Transportation Committee, which was what I called then, and I continue to call now, clearly a cover-up. It was a made-up story. There's a traffic study. No, there isn't a traffic study. This was about lanes that are dedicated to Fort Lee. No, there are no lanes just dedicated to Fort Lee residents. That whole thing was a made-up story. It was a cover-up. I have been waiting for 4 months to hear from a Port Authority commissioner and now the governor. What went on here? Who are these people that took the busiest bridge in the world, and used it for petty political payback? This is such a bizarre story that when I thought I couldn't be shocked anymore, I still am.
While we don't know at this point exactly how far up it goes, some people already say that the buck not only stops with the governor, but he created a culture where this was born out of, and more than that, it was a culture, they say, with this incident that endangered the safety of New Jerseyans, Do you think that's going too far, or do you think that's an accurate description of what we know already with the facts in the email thread that's now public?
The leader of every organization is responsible for the culture of that organization, and that culture dictates how people behave and what they think is acceptable and not acceptable. This governor has made political retribution, bullying tactics, a staple of his administration. He has essentially said to the people who work for him, this is okay, I do it, and they have to look at his leadership style and say, this is the kind of thing the governor likes. But we also know that the governor's office in this state is a very hands-on operation by this governor. There's not a lot of free operators. They are independent thinkers. They do what they're told and they follow orders. And so the revelation that one of the governor's senior aides initiated the order to David Wildstein to create traffic problems in Fort Lee is disturbing, because it means that there are other people in this administration who are involved. One of the reasons why the committee needs to continue the work it's doing in investigating this is there are so many unanswered questions. As helpful as the emails are in shedding light on how this happened, they also raise an enormous number of questions about who organized this, what was the rationale for doing it, and why was there such a valiant effort to try to cover it up and belittle the investigation.
Do you believe, and it seems at least on its face from the emails that we've read, that this is all about political payback, pure and simple?
And all the words we've seen speak to political payback. You wouldn't see two people exchange emails on their private email account saying that it's time to create traffic problems in Fort Lee if this was a governmental operation. You wouldn't have somebody say, don't worry about the kids being late for school because they're children of Bono voters if this was a governmental operation. And so everything we've seen points to this being some type of political retribution. What's not clear is exactly for what reason, for what purpose. What did Mayor Sokolich do that warranted this type of behavior? You know, it also begs the question that no mayor, no community in the state should be subjected to some type of retribution because things didn't go the governor's way. I mean, that's what happens in a democracy. You work with people, sometimes you get your way, sometimes you don't. But when you don't bring the hammer down and punish them, but that seems to be what happened here. And so whether or not people are terminated or they resign, we still need to continue to look at this issue and investigate it. There is clearly a violation of law here. Pat Foy, who's the executive director of the Port Authority, said so in his email on September 13th. And those violations of law need to be looked at by law enforcement agencies. The legislature is looking at this in terms of the accountability, in terms of the functioning, and in terms of the money that the Port Authority is spending. But law enforcement needs to look at this in terms of whether there have been laws broken and whether people need to be held accountable. And so I think there is dual purpose and dual tracks that need to be followed in this investigation.